Okay, so we are going to briefly discuss environmental issues, and they are environmental issues that are impacting the Keys. Now, I'm from the Upper Keys, and that's my background. I heard a couple of things this morning in the discussion that I don't have on here, and that will be added. Okay, so if you'll go to the next one. These are the major threats to our coral reefs. One of them is careless tourists. They come down from the north and they rent a boat and they go out and they don't know the rules, they don't follow the rules, they drop the anchor wherever they want to drop it. The divers get in the water and they are grabbing onto the coral, they're finning their fins like crazy and creating quite a havoc. Pollution is a big issue. The major pollution in the Keys are the plastics, which is so very detrimental. And then also the sewage. Now, in the Upper Keys, we have this nice thing going on right now where everybody has to get rid of their septic tanks and hook up to the county system. Have you guys had this experience yet?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's happening.
So you have your lateral lines put in and all of that?
Right in the city.
Okay. Well, for anybody that doesn't, I am here while my husband is finishing up there, and I just got off the phone with him, and after a week and a half, they finally have the lateral lines out to the street. We're hooked up, and he said, you would not believe the dust and everything. He spent 3 hours this morning trying to, with water, get the water off, or the dust off the back of the house. And the ground, we have to now re-landscape the side of our yard and the back of our yard. So it is a big mess. But the powers that be thought that if everybody switched from septic tanks to a sewer system, that it would improve the health of the Keys. And it probably will, but my personal opinion in that is that that's probably only marginal. That we need to start with the big sugar people up north and the cattlemen and things like that. But every little bit helps. Now, in working with our students, I think it's important that we get the pollution message across to them. And if they don't understand what all this is about, then we probably have to help them understand it. But I would not share with them my bias. Fishing is a major threat. It's overfishing. It's not knowing the rules again. It's not following the rules. And this is probably something that with our ELL students, it might be something that we need to go over with them, because they might not know that you cannot go into the no-take zones and fish. They might not even know where the no-take zones are. So that would be I see as one of our responsibilities, that we would help them learn that.
The fishing rules change though, and I mean, as someone who never goes out fishing, I don't think I could be expected to learn all the new rules as they change and pass that information along.
We can get flyers for you from Fish and Wildlife, and the last time, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the last time I saw the flyer, it was just a little fold flyer thing, right? With the rules?
Yeah, and the rules only change on the state side, but now changing because it used to be able to change many times throughout the year. They now either take effect January 1st or July 1st. So the state regulations, which is what most people, they're trying to get state and federal the same, so if you get the state regulations down, it would be pretty good. Only change it twice. So
Is there a website?
you can get it off the Florida Fish and Wildlife, FWC.
You can download the fishing regulations.
Off what? FW?
FWC.com, I think is what
But
it
if
is.
you have pamphlets, we could set them out in the office easily.
I think more important, I mean, if I can kind of step in, but it's not so much what the regulation is, but there are regulations, and you know, and all that. I think that's a big part of it, and something you're going to really run into a lot of cultural issues when you start talking fishing. I used to be an officer. I was out there checking boats 8 to 10 hours a day, and a lot of the Caribbean nations and other places, those fish were put there by God, and they are there that I can harvest them. Okay? And that you don't tell me what to do. So it's really a culture, and a lot of times it's not knowing the regs, it's
Not knowing that there are some.
it's a cultural thing, is that those were put there to sustain me and my family. And they could tell me the regs, but it didn't happen, you know, it was, so it's a cultural thing, I just want to throw that out
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I think my students that I've encountered would definitely understand if I explained that there were some, but it would not be at all interesting to them to know exactly what they are, because they don't go fishing either.
And I mean, and little things to do that, the reason that there's a size limit is so that they get big enough to have babies, so there's more fish. More than them, you trying to memorize the yellowtail has to be 12 inch and
Yeah.
kind of more that side of it,
Okay.
kind of goes a long way to.
But I think that's
Yes.
good.
Don't you have to learn what the regulations are when you get a fishing license?
Nope.
It's not required.
Nope,
No.
you go down there, you pay, and they give you a stamp, and out you go.
But the thing-
But if you get caught with something else.
Yes.
regs when you get your license. No, I didn't.
Fishing license,
They give you a copy.
A mandatory review of the regulations.
Another
It's
test.
more like having a kid than getting a driver's license.
Okay, so we'll move off of fishing and go into fertilizer, okay? And Mary covered that a little bit this morning about the fertilizer runoff and that's a big problem. And then I have seas of garbage up here because it is a big problem. It's all of the litter, but it's especially the plastics. And Mary, tell me again the name of that NOAA program that is collecting?
well, Team Ocean,
Team
our
Ocean.
Team Ocean program does a lot of, beach cleanups and shoreline mangrove cleanups using kayaks and stuff like that.
And that's something that I thought, in fact, it was on the OceanSpeak site, I believe, that we might get involved with that with our students.
Yeah.
The marine debris program?
Well, it's collecting and reporting it.
We organize.
We do a series of cleanups every, as a matter of fact, we've got a cleanup coming up Saturday.
Yeah.
How about no plastic bottle water?
Okay, Peter, next slide. We're moving right along here. Okay, now we're talking about mangroves.
Obviously, yeah, I mean, that's why we wanted to put this up here, was to get this out and then to have a discussion about what might be good. I think we're already
Having a discussion. All right.
That's great.
You saw a beautiful film this morning on the mangroves, and if you were really looking at it, you could see the prop roots of the red mangroves, and you saw all of the little critters that are actually living in there. The mangroves are a wonderful habitat for the juvenile fish and the crustaceans. I mean, they are vitally important. There are well, mangrove is not a taxonomy. Mangrove is a reference to trees that live in a saltwater environment and how they exclude their salt. So there are three basic ones. There's the red, black, and white, and then there's also the buttonwood that is loosely connected or put into that mangrove category. The ones on the shoreline and in the water, first you have your reds, and that's what you saw this morning with those beautiful prop roots that the Native Americans used to call the walking sticks. And then you have the black, which is still in the water, and they have these neat little pencil-like protrusions, and that's their aerial roots. And then higher up on the ground are the white mangroves, and if you take the trail at the park, there is a beautiful white mangrove there, and then there's also a buttonwood. Now, when the storms come in, the red mangrove and the black mangrove really protect us from those fierce winds. There was a study done in 2005. There was a tsunami that hit Sri Lankan, and there were two neighboring villages. One village had clear-cut their mangroves to do farming. The other village did not. They still had a very healthy mangrove environment. The tsunami came, and two people in the healthy mangrove village lost their lives, and that was it. I mean, there was a little other damage, but there were only two fatalities. In the village that had clear-cut their mangroves, it was devastating, and the mortality rate was very, very high. So the mangroves are very important for the hurricanes and wind protection. The white mangrove, which now, again, it's higher up. It has a different root system, but it's also very important too, because then when the water runs off, what do you suppose those roots do? They collect the sediment, or some of the sediment. So that's another important part. I've already said that they're the nursery habitat. they provide shelter during the storms. Now, it's shelter for the animals, it's shelter for the birds, it's shelter for some people with little boats. They take them back into the mangroves instead of leaving them in their driveways and that. And overall, they contribute to the overall health of the whole Florida coastline. Very, very important trees in our environment. Okay. I think this is a night heron, but I'm not positive. And he is fishing for his dinner. And guess where he's fishing for his dinner? In a mangrove. Okay? Invasive species. Now, there are several, both plant and animal. The one that I think we're all familiar with here, one of them, is of course the iguana. And last February, they were literally dropping from the trees, which was very, very sad. And
You can warm them up again, though.
you can?
Yeah, they don't stay dead. I mean,
Well-
they get run over or something, but if you take them up, but you can bring them in by
After the 10th one that my husband picked up, took down to the hammock and put it under the brush and everything, I said, Chuck, I think that's really enough. I think we've done our job.
Yeah, he'll live.
But, you know, they do not do well in the cold. So that's one of the invasive species. The other one that is coming back again is the Burmese python. Now, obviously, the Burmese python did not just arrive here. It was probably somebody's pet or a few people's pet. Got too big for them, they lost interest in them, and so where to take them? We'll just drop them off in the Everglades and let them go for themselves.
He'll have a happy life.
Have a happy life. A couple of months ago, one was found down as far as mile marker 103. And they were such a problem that the USGS, the United States Geological Service, put out a postcard. Did you guys in Key West get the postcard?
No.
Okay, well, it was a beautiful postcard. It had, on the front of it was a picture of the Burmese python. And it very plainly said, if you see this creature, call this 800 number. And so that was put out all in the Upper Keys. Next slide, I think, is the one I want. Yep. This is our newest arrival. And again, you know, it didn't just swim up here from Argentina, and it didn't arrive on, probably did not arrive on a boat either. It's an exotic pet, or they are exotic pets. They've been released, and they are in the Upper Keys. They're voracious eaters. They are a big threat to our little not key deer, the little rat. Key Largo rat. Yeah, I knew the Key Largo. I couldn't get the last word. So this guy is, I don't know what we're going to do to get rid of him. Big. Now, I haven't seen one in person.
There's a lot of them?
Well, the article in the paper said that they have arrived. It didn't give specific numbers.
Okay.
Do you have a specific number count?
Yeah, I've got that they're established in Florida City, out at the old Burger King property where their management offices used to be in Miami.
Yeah.
Very established populations there, and that they're coming.
They're coming across the stretch.
Yeah, they're carnivores.
So then how do you keep people from dumping them? I mean, what about, nature things where you can dump these things? I mean,
Well, actually, there is a program, and I don't remember who runs it, but several months ago, there was a collection, and it was in Key Largo, where you could take your exotic pets that you didn't want. It must have been Fish and Wildlife. Does that ring a bell?
FWC, and I know the Metro Zoo does a big thing, it's like Amnesty Days.
Right.
No question asked.
You just dump them off.
Animal, and there's usually a lot of collectors there, and some cases they'll actually buy them from you, depending on what it is. But you can,
So there is
so
a,
that, your fuzzy little.
if you do have an animal that you shouldn't have gotten in the first place, but you did get, there are positive alternatives of what you can do with that animal when you no longer want it. But people take the easy way out.
Well, I know, but if we don't make it easy, then they're going to keep doing it. So that's
Yeah.
all I'm saying. If there's some easy way that they could, well, yeah, I don't get it, but they got it.
They got it.
So down here, you
Okay,
bring it
next
over
one.
to the-
Now this one you're all familiar with. It's our friendly lionfish. It's a very, very beautiful fish. but the spines are very poisonous. It also is a very voracious eater, and so it is, I don't know, I think destroying is too harsh of a word, but it is greatly harming the natural habitat around our coral reefs because it eats everything, and it does not have anything that eats it except for us. And so now what we have are called these lionfish derbies. And I think all 3 sections of the Keys have already had one. Ours in Key Largo was very, very successful. They caught over 525 of these guys. And they came, you know, from small ones. I think the largest one they caught was 8 inches. So they are trying to get rid of them. What?
Do they taste good?
Yes.
Yes, they are supposed to taste very good. And that
Just be careful when you clean them.
yeah. Now therein is one of the problems because right now we have the smaller ones, so they're very difficult to fillet and clean in that. But you don't want to wait till you get the big ones because we don't want them here.
Yeah.
But it's the big ones from the Pacific that they do.
Okay.
But they are trying to get this whole derby thing going and get people so that, oh yeah, we'll eat these guys and get rid of them that way.
And they're not indigenous here.
They're not, what?
How did they get here then?
Aquarium trade.
Yeah, from Fort Lauderdale.
They were just introduced again.
Bahamas.
And
Bahamas.
the interesting thing is, the first one in the Keys was spotted in January 2009. Okay, and then a few weeks ago, or several weeks ago, when we had our derby, and this is just in the Upper Keys, 525 of them were caught. Now there was a derby in Marathon, and there's been a derby down here. So, I mean, I don't know how many all total have been caught.
They're already established along the North Carolina coast.
And they killed everything, I mean.
They do, they do. They're,
You can eat a fish half their size,
yeah.
so they can eat good sized fish. USGS on the fish that we did during the 3 line derbies this fall, all the stomach contents are being taken by USGS and studied, and then also the levels are going up to Beaufort NOAA lab. But they figure that the majority of the ones caught during the derbies were about a year old. So a year from now,
Yeah,
and they lay 20,000 eggs every 4 days.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Juveniles have been found as far north as Long Island and Bermuda.
and they're an elusive fish. When we go out on our dive boat, we're told that if we see one, do not try to get it. Come back and tell us, and they're trained. They'll go down with the net and they'll get it. Because if I try to get it and I don't know how to do it, it will run from me and it learns. And so it will be harder for them to catch it.
Can't you just shoot it with a little spear?
No, you're supposed to catch them with nets.
Are you really?
Yeah.
You
Can you, you have to be
in certain
trained for
areas, You
it.
have to be permitted in order to
I
take
heard
them.
that, that seems silly, why doesn't it?
To take a lionfish?
Yes. Except during the derbies. During the derbies, it's almost free game.
Well, let's have a license or let's have a permit every year.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on to the next
It's
one.
an issue because we have no take zones, and you look at it from the officer's standpoint, you know.
You can't say except lionfish.
Yeah, so we do the exception. You have to, so your permit is you go to a class that's put on by Reef Environmental Education Foundation. You go to that, they teach you all about the lionfish and all. You take a little 10-question quiz, which if you sat through the class, you should take, and we will issue, the sanctuary issues you a permit to collect the lionfish in our no-take areas. And what I've done, we've got hundreds of people, I want to say about 800 people in the Keys who are now permitted to do that. It's done by Reef Environmental Education
And they are
Foundation.
partner on a grant too.
If you don't take it, can you?
Reef Environmental Education, they're one of our
You
main
can
grant.
take them, you only need the permit in our sanctuary preservation area and the ecological reserve. Otherwise, in the rest of the Keys, fair game. I mean, if you're in the upper Keys and it's a no spearfishing zone, because it's state waters from Long Key on up, and it's no spearfishing zone. But, you know, so you don't get that exception, but otherwise you can take them. The permit is only for within our spas and our ecological reserves. Sorry.
No, thank you. Now,
I was just down in Little Cayman, and they were permitted to kill these with spearfish, and groupers would come in and swoop in and eat them, eels would eat them, crabs would eat them, they don't affect, they just don't know that they're edible. That's the problem. So as soon as they were speared, you'd see a grouper come in and just chomp it. And they're not affected by it.
So we need to teach our groupers how tasty they
Proper
are.
education.
So somehow these fish aren't affected by the poison.
There is anecdotal evidence out there that groupers, some groupers do actually feed, have eaten lionfish. yes.
Well, let's get
Well,
them to
I mean, I
Yep,
saw
there we
dozens
go.
of them being eaten, so, I mean, I know it's true.
Good. Okay, there are other plants that are very invasive. This is one of them, the Australian pine. It was put up originally as a windbreaker, and then we found out how invasive it is because the needles drop and the needles actually smother the things on the ground, and the other plants on the ground don't grow, and so it just grows prolifically. And again, I know this is an Upper Keys problem, and especially around where the power lines are and that. They are trying to control it, but it's a very invasive plant. Okay? Okay, tourist impact. Oh, I was going to change seagrass meadows, sorry Mary, to seagrass beds, but anyway. Tourists do impact our mangrove forests and our seagrass beds. We also have the problem with the nesting turtles and all the people walking along the beach at night when the turtles are there and destroying their eggs, or worse yet, digging up the eggs. And then the other problem with the turtles is the high rises from the condos and that. When the nestlings come out, they are disoriented and they cannot find their way to the ocean, and sometimes they go the wrong way and they go onto US 1 or something like that instead. With one of the other tourist impacts, and no offense to anyone, but when tourists come down, a lot of them want to stay like at the Hilton, which has its own private beach. But if you look, all around the Hilton is a mangrove forest. So how did that beach get there? Well, what they did is they clear cut the mangroves and they brought the white sand in so that the people, the tourists that were staying there, had a nice sandy beach. Another impact from tourists is with the really swanky hotels and that, you have to have a dock put in so they can have their boats. Well, so you cut down some more mangroves so you can put that boat slip in there. It's in, I believe it's Isla Morada, had a case going a few months ago where someone had a piece of property and it was zoned one way and he wanted to change it because he wanted a bigger boat slip. And every time they do this, they're cutting down more of the mangroves. So that's a big impact.
Thought you had to have a permit or some kind of something before you could even.
You do? Oh, you mean before you can, yeah, you have to have a permit to cut the mangroves down, but you know, the money under the table and you get your permit.
Who issues those permits?
In Monroe, I think that's who it is. But I mean, they're not that difficult to get, especially politically.
A lot of people just go ahead and do it,
Well,
and then it's
yeah, I
done,
mean, I
and then
understand
they ask for forgiveness later.
No, okay, Peter.
Fleet acre.
Well, we had our.
Okay, so essentially these then are our environmental issues, threats to the coral reefs, protecting our mangrove forests or destruction of our mangrove forests, the invasive species, and tourists. Next one. And now it is your turn. We are going to do a little think, pair, share. I'd like you to take a couple of minutes individually to think about the environmental issues that impact you or your students down here in Key West. And then you will partner with the person next to you and share ideas. And then you will share with all of us. Okay? So think time. Think time. It's think, pair, share.
What is that? Think what?
It's think,
Think,
pair, share. That's a first grade teacher talk.
Is it? No, I must have missed that.
Okay.
Ding dong.
Okay. Now we're going to share, but one at a time, or one per team is going to share so we can all hear. And I need to write down some of the things that you say because I didn't have everything on here. I'm not familiar with some of the environmental issues for this particular area. All right, so why don't we just start and go around the table? But remember, it's one person talking at a time.
Since Jack and I live in Tallahassee, what I wrote down was we have Wakulla Springs is right below Tallahassee. It's a well-known, one of many of Florida's wonderful springs. It's actually where we got married. And, but the runoff from Tallahassee has been muddying, you know, the algae, the growth in the springs. And then also the septic tank thing, they passed that up there because of the runoff from Tallahassee. It's a major issue.
What I wrote down as one of the major things, problems that we're facing here in the Keys is water quality. And under water quality, you could put, you know, stormwater runoff, nutrient enrichment, contaminants, sedimentation, watershed alterations, like what they did up to the Everglades and what happened to Florida Bay back a few years back, and what they're trying to do now to correct all that, you know. And it's water quality has been one of the biggest issues in the Keys for the last 30 years. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that what they did to the watershed, and they altered all that freshwater inflow so that they could irrigate sugar plantations and a lot of it for residential usage. There is a program now, multi-billion-dollar, 30-year project called the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan, where they're trying to go in there and restore the natural flow of fresh water into Florida Bay. One of the things I try to get across to the kids is that all this stuff, there's two basic fundamental laws in ecology. One, everything is connected to everything else. Two, everything has to go somewhere. If I can get that point across to the kids, they can understand the interconnectivity between these different ecosystems. And I think that's important. But in terms of what we're dealing with down here is water quality is a big issue.
Thank you.
We agree, water quality, but then we're really concerned with pollution and water runoff, oil pollution, sewage especially, and stuff on our beach, cigarette butts on our beach. It takes 25 years to even start to decompose, and the birds eat them and they die.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things we were also mentioning, well, we had the at the beginning of the oil thing, and I was doing beach walking for turtle crawls, etc., because it was nesting season, and we were finding what we thought were tar balls on the beach, and picking them up in the proper fashion, etc., etc. It turned out that many, a huge majority of them were feces from cruise ships. So I don't know what it is they think they're doing when they're doing processing, whatever they're doing. Then somebody's pooping like crazy in the ocean if it ain't a cruise ship.
So, well, yeah, you believe, but you don't know for a fact where.
I'll give you that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't
Tremendous
matter
amounts,
where
and
it's
then what
from,
do
the point
they
is it's
find?
here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just had an issue when you say, I understand Australian pines are an issue in the northern Keys perhaps, but down here they're trying to remove them from Fort Zac, and that is just a disgrace if they remove them from there. They are very helpful in some places. It can't be just one flat rule for everything. Evaluate each place and the issues that are good or bad for each individual.
Well, the thing with the pines is that they are smothering out the native species, the native plants.
Oh, you know, you're smothering out nothing down here in Fort Zac.
What happens if we break?
All right, we'll take care of it.
This is a hot button issue.
Yeah.
Okay, I did write it down. Okay.
Don't mention Australia.
Not much modified.
We'll fight you real hard on it.
I understand.
And we also talked about the increased tourist activity and, and the effects of that. But we were also talking about the impact on the economy then, since so much of our
Right.
economy is based on.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, rising sea levels. Due to whatever reason, but mostly global warming, I assume, but
Oh,
that's
sea-
a real issue.
I mean, we've seen a change in Key West, but, certain areas are flooding that never flooded before.
Okay.
And it has, people do have a real concern here.
what we can do about it, I don't know.
The sea
Okay.
level has been measured and raised by 9 inches in the harbor in the last 100 years.
Yeah, well, it's 25 feet in the last 6,000 years, it's coming up.
Don, did you have something to, okay,
We didn't have anything that you hadn't already said.
all right.
When we were talking also about the economic impacts of the oil spill on the cities.
Okay.
The whole Gulf Coast.
People aren't eating their oysters and shrimp and things like that, they're saying where are they from, and so restaurants are hurting.
Because the
Because of the oil spill, they're thinking that
the fish is not, what, they want to eat local fish, but the shrimp is not from here, is that what you're saying?
they're wondering where it's from, right?
Okay.
But the shrimp there is fine,
But they don't know
Right.
that.
Shrimp in the Gulf is fine.
The shrimp in New Orleans is fine. I was just in New Orleans.
The
It's
oyster is in New
beautiful. The
Orleans.
fish are beautiful.
We found some oil and shrimp.
Right,
Yeah,
but it's still okay.
it's okay to eat the shrimp with the oil.
Okay.
I'm going to break off from our group over Bell. I like what we did, but I just thought of something, and we talked about Australian pines, but it's all the invasive exotics that we have down here that are prolific. Brazilian peppers, lead trees, a lot of these things that really do destroy all the native habitat. It's good for the type of ground it is, to protect it from, runoff and things of that nature. Habitat for the animals that were here. Brazilian peppers, you see huge stands, and
Right.
I'll plant trees by my property, by the fence. And these Brazilian peppers lean way over and shade the tree so it'll die.
Right.
So I have to cut the peppers back, but they're very prolific. So if we can get rid of some of the native exotics and put some of the native trees back in, we'd be better off for the ocean.
We already talked about it, but the erosion caused by mangroves being cut back and the water level rising as well. We've seen some of the beaches almost disappear or being shortened and disappearing gradually. And in 11 years, Jill has seen, one beach disappear, basically.
Creeping out.
Well, we started talking about how there needs to be more awareness of things like cutting up the six-pack holders so they don't strangle the sea life. And my particular concern was with recycling and the need to expand that. I didn't mention it, but get the bars to recycle. If we do that, we would have a major advance around here. And it's always the balance between the environment and the economy.
It is.
And we were trying to think of what would be important and of interest to the students that you're tutoring. What would be the impact on them? What could they take and share back with their families or their communities? And so we thought pollution and or being stewards of the environment with regard to pollution would be a start.
Thank you all very much. You did an excellent job. And the teacher in me, I brought one of these down for each of you. There's a great article in here that Melissa referred to earlier, so looks like there might be more than one for each of you. So if you want to take a couple, I don't want to take any of them back.